Pawn to e4. Knight to c6. Pawn to d4. Pawn to d5. Nimzowitsch defense, Scandinavian variation. Pawn to e5. Bishop to f5. Pawn to c3. Pawn to e6. A French-like structure with the light square's bishop and the queen's knight out of the pawn chain. Bishop to d3. Knight to e7. Knight to a3. An interesting move. A thematic idea. White takes advantage that the e7 knight blocks the bishop to develop the knight via the rim of the board. This is move 6 and we reach a new position. There are no games in the Lichess Masters database from here. Pawn to f6, attacking the head of the spear. Pawn to f4. Bishop to d3. Queen to d3. Knight to f5. The knight replaces the bishop. Knight to c2. Black to play. What to move? If pawn to e5. Pawn to c3 with equality. Pawn to g5. An interesting move was played in the game. Black's f-pawn attacks the head of the pawn chain. Now the g-pawn attacks the base. This speculative move is double-edged because black's king is still in the center. Pawn to f6. Pawn to f4. White to play. What to move? If knight to e2. And white is better. Pawn to f7 was played in the game. King to d7. Bishop to f4. Queen to h4. Pawn to g3. Queen to h5, preventing white from castling long. Knight to f3. Bishop to d6. Bishop to d6. Pawn to d6. White to play. What to move? If king to c1. And white has a slight advantage. King to g1 was played in the game. Rook to f8. Queen to e2. Target ng the d3 pawn. Queen to h6 to increase the control of e3. Rook to e1. Rook to f7. White to play. What to move? If knight to g5. A brilliant move. The knight is clickbait to distract black's queen from the defense of e6. Can black take the knight now? Black to play. What to move? If king to c7. Rook to f7. White is winning. If queen to g5. Queen to a8. White is winning. Queen to e6. A mistake was played in the game. White's advantage evaporates. Queen to e6. Rook to e6. Black to play. What to move? If king to e6. A mistake. Knight to e7, white is winning. If rook to g8, a great move. Rook to f3 with equality. Rook to f8, a dubious move, was played in the game, preparing a trick on the f-file. White to play. What to move? If knight to g5, a dubious move. Rook to f8 with equality. Rook to e1 was played in the game. Knight to g3. Pawn to g3. Rook to f3. Rook to f3. Rook to f3. King to g2. Rook to d3, a blunder. The rook enters the tiger's den. Black's idea is to use the c-pawn and rook to attack c3. Rook to e2. Pawn to b5. White to play. Pause the video and find the right move. Knight to e3. Now black's rook is trapped. Knight to e7. White to play. Pause the video and find the right plan. Yes, probably most of you solved the problem. The question is how to attack black's rook without letting it escape. King to f2. Black to play. What to move? If pawn to b4. If knight to c6. Freeing the e2 square for the king. Rook to d4, white is winning. King to e6 was played in the game. The e3 knight is blocking the escape of the rook, so black tries to exchange knights. However, now white's rook is looking the black monarch through X-rays. Knight to f1, and black resigns. King to d7. Rook to e7. King to e7. King to e2, a great game by Wang Hao. Black started with a slight offbeat opening, and set fire on the board early on move 9. Computers don't like that move, but it required very precise play to exploit the advantage. Black equalized the game many times. As Tartakower said, the winner of the game is the player who makes the next to last mistake. The real error of black was entering the tiger's den without having a backdoor to escape.